Welcome to Chicago Bulls Chat with C-Red UK. This podcast is part of the Fans First Sports Network. Wherever or however you're listening, make sure to rate, review and subscribe. It helps us out and means you never miss another episode. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to hit the thumbs up button and leave some comments for us to get back to. And for all the C-Red UK action, check out the Discord channel and across the socials. Now, over to your hosts, Matt Hearn and Neill Dunn.
Welcome back. I'm Matt, and as usual, joined by Neill. How are we doing, Neill?
Yeah, I'm good. Not too bad at all. How are you doing?
Not good. I'm just currently sat in a tin can in 30-degree heat, absolutely melting and dripping with sweat. But aside from that, I am all giddy because, as we mentioned last week, this is our last pod for a couple of weeks. Not that's the reason why I'm giddy, but it's because we're due to go on holiday/vacation, wherever you're listening. Obviously, I go this weekend and you go the day after, don't you? I think we're not going.
Yeah, I fly on Tuesday, but we're going up to Dublin on Monday. So technically it starts Monday.
Yeah, as I fly out on Sunday. So
okay.
Obviously, we're not going on holiday together, as many people keep suggesting.
Opposite directions.
Yeah, you go to more glamorous places than I do, and a lot more often. So.
Would you call Vancouver glamorous? I don't know. I've never been there, but
I don't know because I've never been to Turkey either. So
see, there you go.
Yeah, first for everything.
There you go.
So yeah, like I say, all giddy. That's the title of the episode because we're in kind of holiday mood, and we're going to talk a little bit about Josh Giddey. But before that, today Bulls released their pre-season schedule, and it's obviously all October, and it starts for us here in the UK on Wednesday the 9th at midnight. So and that is against a trip to Cleveland. Joy.
Yeah. Everybody likes going to Cleveland.
Yeah, well, it could be worse. We could have been going there on vacation. So.
Exactly. Exactly.
Then we've got Sunday, the 13th against Grizzlies, 1 a.m. tip. Tuesday, the 15th at Bucks, 1 a.m. tip. Thursday, the 17th versus Timberwolves, 1 a.m. tip. And then finishes with Saturday, the 19th against Cavs at the UC with a 1 a.m. tip. Obviously, it's pre-season. You know, you've got to premise everything with that, haven't you? You know, it's only summer league. It's only FIBA. It's only pre-season. You know, so everything we're saying coming up about Josh Giddey, just forget about because it's not the NBA, basically.
Well, you know, at some point it's going to be against NBA competition, right? Like as in a full squad of NBA competition.
Yeah. I mean, have you got anything on the preseason schedule before we get into the Giddey stuff? Because I've got a hell of a lot to say about Giddey.
Yeah, we'll get into that in a second. The only thing I noticed about it is there's no crazy tips for us because in the Summer League there was 3 a.m. tip.
Yeah, West Coast.
So at least, so we don't have anything like that, thankfully. But I'm looking forward to seeing the team, getting them playing together and seeing how it starts to gel. So bring it on, really.
Yeah, I mean, obviously before that there'll be training camp, and we'll see all the videos of whatever we normally see. You know, players in.
Yeah.
Well, it's not an empty gym, is it anymore? When it's training.
No, it'll be against each other.
And all them people who hate workout videos all of a sudden love workout videos because it's in the Advocate.
True. True. Makes a difference.
Yeah, you know, it's only a workout. So, on to Josh Giddey. Now, like I say, I've got quite a lot to say, and I'll probably forget most of what I wanted to say, to be honest. obviously, the reason we're talking about Giddey is because he is the only Chicago Bulls player playing competitive basketball at the minute in the Olympics, with obviously his Boomers, the Team Australia. 2 games so far in the Olympics. First game was a 92-80 victory over Spain, in which Giddey played 29 minutes. He put 17 points, which was 2 of 4 from 3, 8 rebounds, 8 assists, and he did have 5 turnovers. And then yesterday they faced Canada, in which Giddey had 28 minutes, 19 points, 3 of 7 from 3, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, and 3 turnovers. But let's just remember, it is FIBA.
Yes.
So them stats, throw them away. They don't matter. Because it's not against a strong opposition. Although Canada is pretty much stacked, just like Team USA.
Yeah.
But don't let that stand in the way of a good narrative. And basically what I wanted to... yeah, you can see where this is going.
Yeah, I've got an idea of the direction of this pod already. Yeah, I do. I think everybody listening or watching has got a fair idea of what way this is going as well.
I did say to you before, I'm very hot and I'm very agitated and angry. So, yeah.
Hey, don't let me stand in the way of it at all. You know, the floor is yours.
So, basically, how I'm going to break it down is you've got podcast A and podcast B. This not us, by the way. But if you consume as much Bulls content as we do and you listen to as many Bulls podcasts as we do, you may have an idea on which podcast is which. So I'm not going to name them, but the point of what I'm trying to say is create your own narrative and follow that narrative. Because for me, with Josh Giddey in particular, he's come in with a certain narrative following him. And Bulls fans haven't really given him a chance because we haven't even seen him in a Bulls jersey yet. And I dare say majority haven't actually watched any of his like exhibition games with Australia or these games with Spain and Canada. So they're only following a narrative that was already created about him. They've seen a couple of little highlight clips, and if they listen to podcasts, they're getting split narratives rather than creating their own. So back to podcast A and podcast B. Now, podcast A is quite negative towards Giddey, shall we say, because it is only FIBA. You know, it doesn't matter. It's FIBA. You know, the 3-point line is closer, so the 3-point shot doesn't mean anything. Doesn't want to see the ball in Giddey's hands for Bulls because, well, he just doesn't want to see the ball in Giddey's hands for some reason, even though that is Giddey's main selling point is when he's got the ball in his hands.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
You know, he had 5 turnovers against Spain, which I've spoken about before, why I think he gets the turnovers. However, podcast A also, considering it is only FIBA, was quite excited by Team USA and Captain America, LeBron James, because of how fantastic he was in Game 1 against Serbia, whoever it was they played.
Yeah,
you know,
Serbia.
Bearing in mind that Team USA is also heavily stacked because you literally take out one superstar level player and bring in another superstar level player, which is why I couldn't really care less about Team USA. I think this is just a joke. However, I have loved watching Joel Embiid fail because that's what he's done. But
let's just say FIBA rules don't suit Joel Embiid's game.
So obviously Josh Giddey's stats don't matter because it's FIBA and he's playing in apparently a heavily stacked Team Australia, which I don't think they are. They're probably
There are a handful of
fourth.
strong players, yeah.
Yeah.
And then, as is the case with most teams in the Olympics, they have a solid 4 or maybe 5 players, but as soon as you start dipping into the bench, you can see the weaknesses there because they just don't have the same depth. Like you say, it's superstars from, number 1 all the way through to 15 with Team USA and close enough with Canada as well.
Yeah. And I mean, in game 1, LeBron actually had 6 turnovers. But it doesn't matter.
And Giddey had what, 5?
Yeah. But it doesn't matter because it's only FIBA. But we'll get excited about LeBron, shall we?
No, let's not.
Right.
No.
So
you've come to the wrong podcast. Podcast C is not the place for LeBron love.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously, Podcast A pulls out a load of stats to try and prove the narrative and whatever. Basically, they don't like the trade. They think we should have got more picks or should have got picks, which we all do. But
yeah.
we move on. I think Podcast A is just very down about Bulls, and doesn't matter what they do, they're just never going to be happy because it's not what they would have done. So Podcast B is a little bit more positive. Does pull out stats, pulls out different stats, should we say, and also highlights that it is only FIBA, but that it can translate to the NBA because at the end of the day, it is basketball. Doesn't matter who the opposition is, who's on your team, it's basketball. And what a lot of Giddey is doing will translate. Podcast B basically just highlights the good side of Giddey. Does say there is obviously flaws to his game, which we know there is, but is creating a completely different narrative to obviously Podcast A. So now the whole point of what I've just said is basically, like I say, don't follow either of these narratives, because I'm not saying either one's right, I'm not saying either one's wrong, but it can cloud your opinion of Josh Giddey before you've even seen him in a Bulls uniform. And that's what I mean. Go out and actually watch the games and form your own opinion, your own narrative, and go with it. Which is what I've admitted I've done, because I hadn't watched a lot of Giddey before, because at the end of the day, I only saw him twice a year when he come and played Bulls, or we went to OKC. The first sort of time I really watched him and paid attention to him was the exhibition games, and then obviously these 2 Olympic games that we've seen him in. And I've not completely changed my thoughts on him, because I was quite excited to see him in a Bulls uniform anyway. After the trade, once I'd got over the initial, why didn't we get any picks? But how I look at it now is, we're not going to know who's won this trade until maybe 3-4 years down the line, because at that point Caruso may well be retired because his body can't hold up, whereas Giddey's going to be coming into his prime, because he's only going to be 25, 26.
Yeah.
Now I know obviously before I say a lot more about what I want to say about him, so I don't push a narrative on you, obviously I know you watched the game against Spain, and that was the first time you've actually really focused on Giddey as well.
Yeah.
I got a rough idea what you thought of him, should I say. And I think you're maybe not as high on him as what I am, which I'll let you explain. I'm not saying you're not high on him, but I just don't think you're as high as possibly me and, Troy, basically.
Yeah. No, I mean, like you say, I'm not in any way down on him. yeah, we can all keep beating the drum of what we should have, could have got as part of that trade. We all are fully aware that we would have liked to see more. Everybody would have liked to see some sort of pick compensation or draft compensation. That didn't happen. Right. We move forward. So moving forward, putting that away and moving forward just based on Giddey and not the trade itself. I think that the opportunity that's there for Bulls through Giddey and for Giddey with the Bulls is pretty high. He is that true point guard in a similar vein to what we had with Lonzo, and technically still have with Lonzo. He can really, really pass the ball. And like I said, you know, I mentioned this on the last pod, and now having watched him even more, I stand by it, that the way he can move the ball in the pocket, the way he can move through the lanes and deceive the players in front of him and kick the ball out or swing the ball to another player is Magic Johnson-esque. Not calling him Magic Johnson. And I said that the last time. I'm saying that again. I'm not comparing him to Magic Johnson. What I'm saying is the way he can move the ball and pass the ball is along that vein, right? The rest of his game is far from Magic Johnson. But I do think that there is, with his age, with his new situation he's going to find himself in Chicago, I do think that the opportunities are there for him to work on the other elements of his game, to add to the passing, to add to the driving, because he is a competent rebounder. He's competent at getting into the lane, and all those things added together, along with working on his shot. And if he can add a 3-point game, or add more to his 3-point game, shall we say, because it's not like it's non-existent, I genuinely think he will be someone that people really begin to love and root for within this Bulls team.
Yeah. And I mean, just some other stats. I know the stats don't mean anything because it's FIBA, but I took these after which game is it that's just finished? The other teams in Team USA's group, Puerto Rico,
Yeah.
And Serbia, which Serbia just absolutely destroyed. So the only teams that haven't played 2 games it's going on now is South Sudan and Team USA. But for all the players that have played in 2 games, Josh Giddey is averaging 18 points, 7.5 rebounds, 7 assists, which is his 12th in the Olympics in points. There's a bit of confusion with the rebounds, but it's 10th. But there's a couple of players who are tied like above him and stuff like that. So, and I'm not sure if the fully updated Jokic, however you lot are saying it. If they fully updated his stats, and he's 5th in assists. When you look at the rebounding, the players that are above him are all bigs.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why I'm not sure if Podcast Day has actually watched these games because of the time that they're on. And I know how difficult they are to catch broadcasts and full match replays and stuff like that, because I've had trouble with it myself. And I imagine being even further behind, like they are in America, is even harder to do. I know Podcast B has watched them because, I won't say too much because you give away who Podcast B is, but I don't think that Podcast A is giving him enough credit for the stuff that doesn't show up on the box score, because they're the stats what Podcast A tends to pull up. They're also not impressed by triple doubles, apparently, Podcast A. They find it a pointless stat. But also when Joker does it, it's incredible. When Giddey does it, it's a pointless stat. It's, doesn't matter if he averages a near triple double every game for Bulls, it's a pointless stat. So anyway, the the things to me, what Giddey does, like you just said, he is an elite rebounder for his position. But if you actually watch him, it's how he boxes out as well. You know, he's obviously a big body for his position, and in particular, I remember in the game that they had against Team USA, he was causing Anthony Davis problems. He was stopping him from getting into a decent rebounding position. He was just basically getting in the way. Do you know what I mean? So that's not going to show up on the box score. He might not have got the rebound, but neither did Davis. He went to like Landale or whoever. Do you know what I mean? And in terms of assists, like you said, he is a good passer, but that's not. You know, I don't think he's as good a passer as Lonzo Ball, for example, but he's a better playmaker. And this podcast day says that if he hasn't got the ball in his hands, then basically he might as well not be out there. But a lot of what Giddey does is actually off the ball, if you actually watch him. And at the end of the day, how many offensive-minded players are effective without the ball in the hands? Surely, to be effective, you need the ball in your hands. Now, obviously, I understand he means in terms of spacing the floor and stuff like that. Because if he hasn't got a three-point shot or he's not seen as a three-point shooter, opposition defenses don't pay that much attention to him. But that's at their fault, because when the ball does go to him, he will drive to the rim, or he will throw it out to Patty Mills, or it's going to be Kobe White or whatever. And like, there was that pass against Spain, what I highlighted to you, where he had two players on him in the pit, near the paint, and he just sort of had the ball up like that, and he just dropped it over the top of him as Patty Mills was running through and got the easy 2 points. And what I remember in his arrival presser, whatever you want to call it, he said his job is to make everybody else's game easier. So to me, that's what he does. And there's going to be times where he gets 5-6 turnovers, and there's going to be times where he gets 11 assists. You know what I mean? And there are flaws to his game. I know that. You can see that just by watching him. And there are times where I've watched him and gone, what the hell are you doing? Like against Spain, there was a missed defensive play where he left his man in the corner and he sort of come into the paint and he ended up with an open three. But then for every one of them, there's 4 or 5 things where I watch him and I go, wow, how the hell did you manage to do that? And I'd rather watch a player that is going to give me 4 or 5 wow moments than a player that is, I don't know, like within the P-Will mentality, basically. You know what I mean? Just as a quick example, where you're thinking, why didn't you do that? Why didn't I'd rather they try it than hesitate with it all. And I think that's what Giddey's going to do. And obviously, natural progression is he's only going to get better at the things that he can already do, and he's going to get better at the things that he needs to work on, because it's a new setting for him. I imagine Bulls are going to put the ball in his hand, and that's what he wants. That's what he needs. And people were saying that the second half against Canada, it went to crap for him, basically, because they put Lou Dort on him. Now, Lou Dort's one of the best perimeter defenders in the league. He's also a former teammate of him. So he knows what Giddey's going to do. He knows where Giddey's looking. He knows all that sort of stuff. And the supporting cast for Giddey with Australia, yeah, all right, Patty Mills. Do you know what I mean? Great FIBA player. But he is, however old he is, and he's Patty Mills. But if Giddey starts struggling in the NBA, who's he going to have alongside him? Someone like Kobe White or Ayo Dosunmu, who could quite easily take over the game themselves, as we've seen. and obviously we are going to have Zach Levine for most part. So, like I say, watch the games and watch what Giddey does and what he doesn't do, really, and create your own narrative. Because if you follow podcast A or podcast B, or if you listen to both of them, you're going to be thinking to yourself, what the hell is Giddey? Is he good? Is he bad? Is he,
Yeah.
And look, at the end of the day, we're going to have to wait till October to see the real Giddey. We're probably not even going to see the real Giddey till maybe December, by the time he's settled in with Chicago. And there's a hell of a lot of questions that need answering with this Bulls team, which
Definitely.
we'll start looking at, I guess, when we come back off holiday. But yeah. I don't know if you've got anything else on Giddey before we get into the rest of it.
Not a whole lot. Yeah, I totally agree with an awful lot of what you said there from what I've seen of him. Another thing that I wanted to mention about him, and I know this is something that we've talked about privately, is he's not afraid to shake it up with guys. Anytime there's kind of a bit of an altercation on the court, he's right in there. He's getting stuck in. He's being a bit of a goon, being a bit of an ass, and that's all positive, and that's all something that we want to see and we need on this team. So it's good to have a bit of that in him as well.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, in game one against Spain, I think there was 3 or 4 times where he was in the middle of everything that was going on and sticking up for teammates and stuff like that. And then there was a one that I shared yesterday on Twitter from Canada, where Dylan Brooks, tool that he is, just basically stands there pretending to be a tough guy. And I mean, I've got no respect for people who think they're a tough guy within basketball, because there's no need for tough guys in basketball. You're just an absolute idiot. Do you know what I mean? It's like, we saw that.
I don't know that I agree. I don't know that I agree with that. I think there's plenty of tough guys that have been in the NBA through the years, maybe less so now than there were in the past. But
that's what I mean. There's no need for it in the NBA now, because the game doesn't allow for it. You know what I mean? As soon as
this is true,
any little bit of breathing on each other is a foul, and we saw it with Dylan Brooks just standing there, and Giddey didn't back down from him. He just tried to run through him or run into him and draw the foul. And you go back to 80s, 90s NBA, Dylan Brooks would be absolutely laughed off the court. He pretty much is now, because nobody respects him for the stupid 1,000-yard stare thing that he does. I respect the shithousery that he does, because I do enjoy that side of thing, like where he was walking across people getting interviewed and stuff like that. Yeah, he just be a knob, basically. But it's just, you're not a tough guy. You just, yeah. But yeah, that is a side of Giddey that I like, is seeing that he will get stuck in. And I think that in itself will endear him to Chicago fans.
I think so.
If he can average a near triple-double, which is a legit stat and does mean stuff because you've done a bit of everything. But, Podcast A doesn't think so.
It depends. When it suits. Yeah.
So, yeah, that's it. All Giddeyed out. I'll send it quickly to our merch site ad, and we'll come back with our Ask Us Anything. Help support the podcast and the brand at C-Red UK by heading to our merch site, where you'll find a variety of designs on things like mugs, t-shirts and hoodies, including our Bulls Ellis and Flop of the Fro, with plenty more designs still to come. Link is in the description. So, welcome back. As I said before, we are going to do a little bit of Ask Us Anything. Basically, we just wanted to, there's not a lot of Bull stuff going on. We just wanted to chill out a little bit before going on holiday. And
yeah, basically,
if you're new to listening to us, it might give you a bit of a chance to get to know us a little bit, if you don't already. So, first question come from, and I didn't actually send you this one, it would come in the chat from Sam, and it was aimed at me. I don't know if you
Okay.
saw it, but it was, what did I think of episodes or seasons 1 and 2 of Game of Thrones?
I did see that.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact thing, but obviously Sam knows that I haven't watched that. I haven't watched Star Wars. I haven't watched Lord of the Rings. I haven't watched Harry Potter. All them sort of crappy things I haven't watched.
Not crappy. Look, just because you don't enjoy it, everybody else does. You're not a fan of the fantasy genre, basically, is what you're trying to say.
Yeah, pretty much. I did try with Game of Thrones, and it brought a little bit of entertainment to the chat because I didn't understand what was going on, and because I didn't understand what was going on, I couldn't get into it. And when whatever his name was getting excited with his sister, I just kind of like, oh, what the hell's going on, and I'm out. So I have only ever watched episode 1 and 2 of Game of Thrones, and that's as far as it will go. So that is my thoughts on that one. Now, we did ask for questions, obviously Bulls related, non-Bulls related, life related, whatever. I've got one from Wayne. AK said that there's more changes to come. I know it's speculation, but who would you like to see on the Bulls roster next season? Whether it's for Vooch, whether it's for Vooch, yeah, that's what I'm calling him now. Vooch, Levine, or anyone else. Now, this is one that we've both kind of struggled with because I think the roster's set.
Yeah.
For now.
Unfortunately.
Whether it's the roster that we see in March remains to be seen, because if Zach can boost his trade value back up, then it opens up a whole load of different trades to what are potentially available now, as in none. So in terms of who I'd like to see on the roster, I don't know. There's a load of players within the NBA that I'd like to see on the roster, but it's whether they fit with this current youth movement, if the other teams are willing to part with them. For me, the easy answer is Javonte Green, because he's a free agent and we could quite easily get him and retire him as a Bull. Just give him these cheap contracts. Just let him come back and just be Javonte, all 5 of them. But obviously that doesn't involve Zach or Vooch. So, yeah.
No. See, the way I struggled with this, or the reason why I struggled with this, is because it's hard to find an actual realistic, viable trade that would possibly work or be entertained. And we've been told consistently through multiple channels that there is no market for Zach and there is no market for Vooch. They're on expensive, overpaid contracts for what their worth is graded as throughout the NBA. So they're hard to move for that reason. They're not on expiring contracts, so it's not like there's a benefit that way on that side of things. And it just makes the whole thing that little bit more tricky to find something. Like, I mean, I could throw out names that I would like, but you've got to think realistically, and you've got to pick something that could potentially work. And it did make it kind of difficult. Like, I mean, players that I was thinking of are the likes of like Hartenstein. I like him, but he's just moved to OKC. And like Buddy Hield, and he's just gone to Golden State, I think. So like those kinds of players that I wouldn't have minded seeing coming over that can benefit and add to what we have in Chicago. And they're already gone. They've already been moved. These transactions have already happened during the off season. So it kind of makes it that little bit more tricky. The one that's kind of still out there and it's floating, and is he going to get moved? Is he not going to get moved? And of course it does mean trying to deal with one of the most difficult front office personnel in the NBA in Danny Ainge is at the Jazz moving Lowry. Now, we've often said Lowry moved. He had to move in order to find himself and become the player he became. But now that we've got this youth movement and now that we've changed the roster and practically overhauled it for the most part, would Lowry work coming back to Chicago now as opposed to 6 months ago? Do you know? Because if you'd asked me that even 3-4 months ago, I would have been like, no, Larry's done in Chicago. He's not gonna work here. But he could potentially fit in now if you were to get some sort of a trade or some sort of a move that took Vooch over for Lowry and bring him back that way. I think you could potentially make him fit in with this new model. But it's hard. Again, it's very hard to say because we haven't seen this new model in action yet. So we don't really know what we've got with this team and how it's going to look. I mean, it's all good and well looking at it on paper, but we need to see what the chemistry is like on the floor. We've got to see how good, bad, or indifferent this team is when they play together. So I do think that's something that's kind of in the back of my mind. But other than that, like if I was going to pick out a player that I've kind of always had my eye on and always liked is Jaden Ivey. I do like Jaden Ivey. I wouldn't mind still seeing him come to Chicago, although I don't know. Obviously, age-wise, he fits with this new movement, but I don't know whether or not he'd actually fit now with what we have, with the way it's been structured. So it's tricky. It's difficult. It's not easy to. It's not an easy black and white answer. Let's say.
Yeah, and well, that's it.
And that's it.
Next question is from Roberto, and it was on Instagram. And again, it's mainly directed at me. But how many basketballs would fit in the back of Matt's truck? Well, literage-wise, it's 37,500. So however many basketballs you can fit into 37,500 litres.
Okay. Nobody told me there'd be math.
Yeah, I didn't do maths at school. I didn't do very well. I didn't do very well at English either. I didn't do very well at maths at school. So I'd hazard a guess at 937. Because there is little walls in between as well that can obscure it. So, and shapes and circles and spheres and stuff. So next one again on Instagram, and it was from Samadi. Now, Samadi likes to throw us questions food related, I've noticed, and drink related. And he's actually thrown, I think he's actually put one on Twitter as well, which we'll get to in a bit. But this one is a 2-part question. Favourite way to have tea, brackets, as I am addicted to caffeine, and favourite sport besides basketball. Now, obviously, for anyone who doesn't know, Samadi does like to mention tea to us quite a lot. Cup of tea, that is, not dinner tea, lunch tea, whatever posh people say.
Oh, yeah, don't go down that road again. We've done this before.
Yeah, because for me, tea works in 2 ways. I have tea as my evening meal, and I have a cup of tea to drink. And I mean, there's only one way to make a cup of tea, and that is tea bag in the cup, pour the boiling water on it, leave it for 3-4 minutes to stew, take the tea bag out, draining it, and then put milk in. No sugar, because it doesn't need to be that sweet. So that's my favourite way to have tea. And to me, that's the only way to have tea.
I have it really strong, like treacle. Little drop of milk, no sugar. It's got to be strong.
Yeah.
You can't be drinking this warm piss.
No, and anybody who puts milk in and all that first, it's just, it's just wrong. The milk goes in last.
Yeah, 100%. Totally agree.
Favorite sport besides basketball? I think we've both kind of mentioned this in the past in one way.
Yeah, I kind of broke this down 2 ways in my own head. I was like, my favorite sport to play and my favorite sport to watch. So my favorite sport to play outside of basketball would be tennis. Although I don't really play anymore. I used to play very frequently. Great game. My favourite sports to watch, I kind of have three. Although I've fallen away from soccer quite a bit, I do like to watch a bit of soccer. Man United is my team. I do apologise for anyone out there that doesn't like that. And then I like international rugby and hurling, which you've heard me talking about a little bit recently, of course, because of Clare being All Ireland champions.
Yeah, and I'm sure that'll come up in another answer a little bit further down.
It may just do.
For me, it's ice hockey. I mentioned that before. I do watch rugby league, which is a different type of rugby to obviously what you just mentioned.
Yeah.
I can't get on board with rugby union. I just don't know why. I've tried, but it's too slow and too confusing. Just pass the ball and run. It's easy.
It's more tactical.
But yeah, for me, ice hockey. To be fair, ice hockey is probably my favourite sport, even above basketball. And I used to be massive on football/soccer, but the play acting and all that just gets him too thingy, and it's kind of like why I put ice hockey above basketball, because I think it's creeping in with a lot of sports now, in particular in basketball, the whole flopping and stuff like that. And like you said before about the fake tough man, not needed in basketball, but you do need a tough guy in ice hockey, because if someone's acting like a little bitch, you just pick them up, batter them, sit down for 5 minutes, and then come out and batter them again. Then you know what a tough guy is. So, yeah, ice hockey for me.
Very good.
Next question comes from Easy, and it's a 3-part question. Would you attach Ayo to a Levine trade? What's your ideal/realistic Levine trade, and your faith on Lonzo comeback? Now, obviously, we've kind of covered Zach with Wayne's question. I don't really know what our ideal realistic trade is. Basically, ideal trade is anything that gets Zach off the team for me.
Yeah. And I, to be honest with you, I think at this stage, like we said, we've resigned ourselves to the fact that Zach is going to be on this roster. So it then boils down to how well he can parade himself to the NBA, I suppose. He can show himself off and boost his value. Whether he can bring it back up to evens or even something that would benefit the Bulls more, is all we can hope for really at this stage, and hope he can be professional enough and do that.
And would you attach Ayo to a trade?
It would have to be a solid trade. I'm not going to sit here and say no, absolutely not. I wouldn't trade Ayo. Do I want to trade Ayo? No, I don't want to. But if it becomes the necessary evil in order to make a decent trade that benefits and gives us a decent return, and it would have to be a decent return, then yeah, I would be open to doing that. Sadly, and I would sadly watch Ayo walk away and play for another team. But if that's what it takes to get a good return, then yeah, I would.
Yeah, I agree on that one. And faith on Alonzo comeback.
Okay. Faith on Alonzo comeback. I have 100% faith that Lonzo is going to come back and play for the Chicago Bulls this season. 100% faith. Yeah. But the bigger question isn't, is he going to come back and play for the Bulls? For me, the bigger question is, what's he going to be like? What kind of a player are we going to get out of Lonzo Ball if he returns? And when he does return, how long will he stay on the floor or on the bench for without going down with another injury again? So kind of similar to what I was just saying with Zach LaVine there, what I'm hoping is Lonzo will come, play a little bit, prove he can still do this at a decent level, increase his value, and maybe open himself up to being moved somewhere else so that the Bulls can benefit something back from him, because I think at the end of his contract, at the end of this season, this upcoming season, I think he's not going to stay with the Chicago Bulls. He's going to walk and potentially end up, after paying out so much money for him to basically sit on the bench for the guts of 3-4 years, is going to give very, very little back, if anything at all. He could very well just walk away.
Yeah. I think he will play again. I just don't want him to, not for Bulls. Got no interest in him picking up his value in any sort of way, because I don't think it's of any value to Bulls, because I don't think anyone's going to trade for him. I think it's a case of he leaves, and basically, as long as he's shown that he can play again, there'll be a team that'll offer him a minimum, because I don't think any team's going to offer him big money, whether he plays 20 games or 20 minutes. You know, it's just, I mean, he's going to be, what, 27, 28 by the time he's due to get his next contract. But the best part of his career is been rehabbing. So
yeah.
Next question, and it is from Samadi, and it is food related, and it kind of goes into the next question as well. So I'll get into that in a minute. But favorite meal of all time. Now, I didn't know which way to take this one. I didn't know if it meant favorite food or what is the best meal I have ever had.
Yeah, I was the same. So I actually broke it down into 2-part.
Well, I just went with the second one of best meal I've ever had, and I'd say anytime I come back from overseas, after eating crap basically for however many months, the first decent, whether it was a pub meal or home cooked meal or whatever, would be my favourite.
Fair enough. Yeah. Just crave that home cooked meal.
Yeah, a nice Sunday roast or something like that.
Yeah. Nice. Well, like I say, I broke it down as in my favourite food or my favourite meal is I love steak. I love a nice fillet steak, especially if it's got like a bourbon glaze to it. Beautiful, like a Jack Daniel's glaze or some sort of a whiskey glaze to it. Beautiful. Love that. And certainly not overcooked. Anybody that orders steak well done should be taken out and shot. Steak is medium at most, and medium rare is the way I like it. And my favorite meal ever was in Portugal when I was on holiday before I was married with children, but it was with my current wife.
There's a surprise, she was on holiday.
Yeah. Okay. Common theme here, right? I work in aviation. I like going overseas and going on holidays, all right? So anyway, we were on the beachfront, on a balcony, looking out over at the sea, and ordered a steak, and they brought up a hot stone, and they cooked the steak at the side of the table to perfection. And straight onto the plate, straight off the hot stone. It was the most incredible steak I've ever had in my life.
Fair enough. Well, the next question is from Happy Bills and Bulls fan, and was, what is your guys' favourite meal to have? I think you've just answered that one. I don't think I really did. Yep. But I'd say my go-to sort of favourite meal is, I love a nice pizza, to be honest. Nice meat feast pizza. I'm not going to get into that whole debate that they have in America on it, because obviously we have different types of pizza over here. I just like a nice stuffed crust on a thin base and plenty of meat on top. So no pineapple, because pineapple does not belong on pizza.
See, that's another debate. I actually love pineapple on pizza.
Weird.
Well, I'm not going to say I'm not weird, but I like pineapple on pizza. If that makes me weird, fine. And my best mate's Italian, and he absolutely hates that I like pineapple on pizza.
Yeah, because pineapple's a fruit.
Yeah.
Why
so's tomato. And what's the base on pizza?
Yeah, tomato sauce. That's different. That's not tomato.
Yeah, but it's made from a fruit. Tomatoes are fruit.
All right. So would you make pineapple into a sauce and put that on a pizza then?
No, of
Well, there you
course
go.
not.
'Cause it's
That
just
would be
weird.
stupid.
And Happy Bills and Bulls fans, next question was, do you listen to Kanye? And if so, what is your favourite song? Short
Okay.
answer, no.
I knew full well that was going to be your answer anyway, and it was just going to be no. I wouldn't be a Kanye fan, but you know, as I've discussed on this pod before, I do love music. I listen to all ranges of music, so there are one or two songs from most artists that I would like, and I'd throw out the song that I would pick if I was going to listen to Kanye would be Stronger.
Not a clue.
Helps that it was mixed from a Daft Punk song, so
Yeah, not a clue. Next question is from Grant Jones, who is part of the Let's Talk Magic UK, obviously Orlando Magic group, and he does like to give us a lot of stick about Vooch all the time, and that's where his question is at.
Yep.
And he's basically grade the Magic / Bulls, Vooch and Aminu even, for obviously Wendell Carter, Otto Porter, Franz, and Jet trade 3.5 years later. Enjoy your holiday, guys. Well, thanks for bringing up Vooch just before we go on holiday. I mean, we lost that trade. Simple as. From a Bulls perspective or point of view, it's got to be what, a D.
Yeah.
When you look at it,
it is.
you know, obviously.
And the worst thing about it is go on. Sorry.
Aminu was shifted to get Damar here. Obviously, he was just salary sort of filler, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Otto Porter's now retired, so we did well getting rid of him.
Mm-hmm.
He did get a ring after leaving here, obviously, with Golden State. So, you know, fair play to him. Wendell Carter, yeah, keep him. You know, he realised he needed to be able to see to play basketball when he left here. So,
should have gone Specsavers.
You know, if it was Vooch for Wendell Carter straight up, then yeah, we'd have won, because Wendell Carter will give 1 or 2 good games and then he'll miss 5 games, whereas at least Vooch is there. As much as that's a good thing or a bad thing,
well, it
you know,
can be a good thing sometimes.
Yeah. And obviously, it's the to me, it's, I'm not really bothered about Jet Howard. I've not seen that much of him. I don't know if he's even played for Magic that much. But I would have liked, had the pick turned for us to be Franz Wagner, then yeah, I'd have liked that. But I don't quite think he's the player that everyone makes him out to be either. You know, when he has just got paid massively.
But he's German.
He's German. Yeah, I would root for him, and that's why I would want him here, because he's German.
If he was on the Bulls, a German player, young German player who has a pretty good career ahead of him, you would definitely be claiming him as your guy.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying I wouldn't. I just don't think he is the superstar player that he's been made out to be. Not yet.
Yeah, fair enough.
But he is out of the same draft class as Josh Giddey, so still time.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it was a shocking trade when you look back at it for Bulls. Magic definitely won it.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no denying it. There's no debating it. The only way to look at it is that it got progressively worse looking as it went on, which is the biggest killer, because, you know, originally it was the 2 first-round picks, which, you know, you never know what way they're going to go. And with one of those picks becoming Franz Wagner, and he has, you know, he was an all rookie, potential future all-star, Yeah, I mean, I got to see him play when I was down in Orlando. Yes, that was a flex, and he looked good. He looked good. I enjoyed what he did on the floor, and I wouldn't mind if he was in a Bulls jersey, and not because he's German, but just because I liked what I saw. But yeah, the problem was that it just looked worse and worse as it went on, and as Vooch has declined, and then of course you see Franz Wagner is getting better. So yeah, and initially when Wendell went there and realized he needed to wear glasses in order to play basketball, he looked better, but it didn't really last. It was just a bit of a peak and then a bit of a trough.
Yeah, it was the picks. That's what did it for me.
Yeah,
just purely because of what Franz Wagner has turned out to be. Next question comes from one of everyone's favourite kind of account, a Muse account. I know not everybody likes them, but they have sent us a question, so we'll answer it.
There's a place for everybody as far as I'm concerned.
Yep. And this one's from Dale and Terry Muse, and it is: the roster looks set for next season. Who's your favourite Bull now after the changes? For me, I mentioned this to you a few weeks back, but I'm going to go with Ayo.
Okay.
Don't know why. I love players like Kobe. I love what Dale and Terry could be. I'm really enjoying the workout videos. I know not everybody does.
Yeah, he's looking good.
But yeah, there's just something about Ayo that I don't know. I just think I don't want to say too much because we're going to get into it when we come back off holiday. But I think he is set to have a big year. So I'm going to go with Ayo.
Yeah, solid choice. But if the Bulls decided to bring back Javonte, would Javonte have been your answer?
Yeah.
Okay.
It may change come the end of the season. I'll probably be saying Giddey, to be fair, but just based on the players who I've seen as a Bull, that's why I'm going Ayo.
Yeah, well, for me, as everybody or anybody who listens to this knows, I always kind of root for P. Will, even though he's making it harder and harder for me to do so. So yeah, I do have a soft spot for P. Will. It hasn't quite gone away, but it's definitely a lot more strained and stressed than it used to be. But I'm actually gonna say I can't help but root for and love this kid. I love Dalen Terry. It's not that I love his game. It's not that I think he's fantastic or he's brilliant and he's going to be game changing. He's a role player and he's only going to be a role player unless he takes a massive leap. But I just really like him. I love his energy. I love his personality. I love how well he gets on with everybody on the squad. And I love his work ethics that he's been putting in, particularly this offseason, but every offseason, but particularly this offseason. And his big concern with Bulls Nation is his shooting, right? Everybody he can't shoot. His shoot is gammy. He's got a kink in his shot. All this. His shot is looking good in those workout videos right now. His mechanics of his shot has improved. He seems to be hitting them in the flow. In the Denard Bros, he looks good there too, from what I've seen. And I'm really high on Dalen Terry, and I think that he could surprise a few people next season if Billy plays him.
Yeah, I'm going to keep my thoughts on Dalen Terry till after our holidays because I think it might surprise a few people.
Okay.
And second part of the question is: away from Bulls, who's your favourite player in the NBA? And
okay, I'm going to let you go first on that one.
I struggled with it. I'm not going to lie, because I don't like many players in the NBA.
That's why I said I'd let you go first.
If I had to give an answer, I'd probably say it's too easy to go with somebody who's just left Bulls because they're still technically a Bulls player. Probably Anthony Edwards, just because I think he does a bit of everything.
Yeah, I can see that.
I don't like the Jordan comparisons because you can't compare anybody to Jordan, but just let him be who he is and be the player he is. You know, to me, he is the best player on this Team USA team at the minute as well, regardless of what anybody else says or thinks.
He's been fun to watch so far, definitely. I don't know how you can put him ahead of that performance from KD right now. It's only been one game, but you know, I'm not saying I'm a huge Durant fan, but I thought he looked sensational in that first game for someone who'd had 6 weeks off. I know you played that as a positive, but normally that would be a negative for someone to walk on the court after 6 weeks off and be at that level. But I just thought what was it, 7 straight shots, 5 of which or 4 of which were from 3, just hit everything 100% at the halftime. I thought it was incredible. But anyway, I digress. He's not my favorite player.
FIBA. It's only FIBA. Calm down.
Yeah, I know. So it's not really a 3-point shot, right?
Yeah, mid-range.
Mid-range, master of the mid-range. But if I was to be kind of a little bit more open to the rest of the NBA and answer it that way, I do have a real soft spot for Luka Doncic. I know he can be a bit of an idiot, but I just think he's just got something about him that I really enjoy about his game, and about how much fun he takes from the game. I know he whines and he bitches to the referees. That's the bit I don't like, but his actual game and his off-court kind of antics and stuff, and some of the shots he pulls off when he's just kind of warming up and that, I really enjoy Luka Doncic. It's hard not to say that you don't like Nikola Jokic.
Depends if
by the
it's
way,
Jokic or Jokic.
By the way, I've got to get this off my chest quickly, but Matt knows this. My big pet hate is mispronunciation of names, right? I mean, we all do it. Some of the names are quite complicated and they're difficult to say. But if you're a commentator for a professional sport like the Olympics or the NBA or whatever, you need to learn how to say players' names correctly. Now, this isn't to blow smoke up his ass if he's listening, but Tim Sinclair makes a point of finding out how to correctly pronounce players' names. And I really respect that side of his job, that he does that and he makes a point of getting it right. And I just wish that more commentators out there would do the same thing, because I don't know if it annoys anybody else the way it annoys me, but every single time I heard Jokic, my skin crawled. It just drives me. I found myself shouting at the TV. I was sitting here watching it with my daughter, and she turned around. She was like, "All right, calm down, Dad," because I was like literally going, "It's Jokic," to the TV, getting annoyed, like he could hear me. But look, you've one job, and that's to know players' names and how to pronounce them, and to talk about the game while it's on TV. Right? Get it right. Anyway, I digress. But I do have to, going back to my favorite players in the NBA, at this stage, I'm not even sure if he's still going to be playing in the NBA. But anyone in the fantasy league knows that I've got a bit of a soft spot as well for the Aquaman Kiwi Steven Adams as well. And I would have loved to have seen him play for the Bulls.
Yeah. Well, another question for you now is Nell Doon. Coming from Tory Craig Muse, Bulls related. How excited for the upcoming season are you?
Is that to me?
Well, obviously I'll answer as well, but yeah.
Yeah. I'm reasonably excited. I wouldn't say I'm like super excited, but I'm more intrigued, I guess, than anything else, to see how this is going to work, if this is going to work, what areas still need major attention, what areas are actually passable, they're okay. So yeah, I really want to see what Giddey brings and see how it all kind of gels together.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say too much because, like I keep saying, we will look at it all properly when we come back.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say reasonably. It sounds like someone just crashed outside the truck. So,
didn't crash into your truck, did they?
No, that was the other night.
Wouldn't want the 973 basketballs to fall out the back.
Yeah, I just want to see what this young core can do. Really, that's what's exciting me more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
And second part of the question, and from TC Muse, greatest sporting memory as a player or fan away from basketball.
Okay.
And this is what I was
Go
about for.
Yeah.
I mean, as a player, obviously, I've never played to a level that warrants any kind of major success. Obviously, won tournaments as a kid. Did play a little bit of rugby league in my younger adult years. Realised that it hurt too much, so soon stopped because it was taking me about a week or two to get over the games, and there was too many fights, and I broke my nose too many times. Also did take up a little bit of sledge hockey, played a game, and it happened to be the game that won us the league. My 20 seconds that I got on the ice was valuable. I won a penalty, which we scored on the power play from. Nearly broke my arm in the process, and once again realised this hurts too much and never played again. Plus, the team went bust after it. So, but as a fan,
they won the league and then went bust.
Yeah, I think there was only about 6 teams in the UK, and
okay,
not a lot of people play it. So, and it is very hard and very brutal if you've never seen it or played it or whatever. As a fan, about 6 years ago, my ice hockey team, as it was, Hull Pirates, won the treble, the playoffs, the cup, and the league, and that was probably my greatest sporting memory as a fan. At the time, my son played and did a lot of mascotting and was on the ice like for the banner raises and stuff like that. It was all lost on him, but to me, it was good to watch. And obviously, the fact that they got 3 trophies is good as well.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, I really, really struggled with this for good reason. I had several to kind of draw from. As for, I didn't actually go down the road of my own achievements or anything like that. Basically, because there probably aren't that many. I was, one of those jack of all trades in sports and master of none, really. So certainly wasn't any major personal achievements. I got MVP in my kind of teenage years team for the North Ants League at one point, but
flex.
Yeah, bit of a flex. Yeah. I was 13. It's not really that big of a flex, but I'll take it anyway. But greatest sporting memories. Okay, I will go in reverse order. I've got 3, so I'm going to go in reverse order. Right. So the first one was probably when Man United won the Champions League against Bayern Munich. When they scored the 2 injury time goals, Teddy Sheringham and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Yep, that's it. I was in a pub watching it in High Wycombe, where I went to college, and the whole place just went nuts. It was awesome. Great night I had afterwards as well. My next one, which is the one I think you were referring to earlier on, was Clare winning the All Ireland there earlier this month in the hurling. It was fantastic. I would have loved to have actually been at the game, but tickets were like gold dust. But we watched it here at home, and we great crack with the family, enjoying it, and it was brilliant. And the whole town is still in celebration mode. But my number one favorite sporting moment was the first time I was in the UC to watch the Bulls play in 1997 at the ring ceremony, which had Michael Jordan, Dennis Rodman, Scottie Pippen in street clothes, Tony Kukoc, and to hear the whole place erupt. I mean, I'm not going to play it down. I'm not going to try and be the big man about it. I was a teenager. I was about 17, 18, something like that. And I stood there and I was welling up big time. The emotions that flooded through me, the hair standing up on my arms, it was just incredible. I was looking at little dots down on the court because we were up in the nosebleeds, but still to have been there and to have felt that atmosphere for that dynasty team was just, I'll never forget it. Never forget it.
Yeah, well, understandable.
Yeah.
And the last question, and I've purposely left this one till last because whether people are still listening or not, I don't know, but this is the one that we could possibly offend a few people. And it comes from Chicago Sky UK on Twitter. Do either of you watch WNBA/Sky? And what's your thoughts on Angel Reese?
Okay. You or me?
I think my answer might be a bit shorter than yours.
Okay. Do you want to go first then?
Just for a change. Basically...
Hey, listen, right? When you go back and listen to this, I think you'll see that you did more talking than I did this time. For once.
Basically, short answer, no, I don't. I don't watch WNBA and I don't watch Sky. Purely because I don't have time. I've got no real interest. I know it's basketball, but I don't watch British basketball either, and that's basketball. If I'm not invested in something and I'm not committed to something, I can't see it through. I know obviously Bulls aren't playing at the minute, but I'm not prepared to get up at 1 a.m. or whatever time to watch Sky play. To be fair, I don't follow any of it on the socials. I wouldn't pay to get the league pass or anything like that. I have tried watching a couple of games and I couldn't get into it. And as I've said before, I probably wouldn't watch Sky either because I'm not a Chicago sports fan. I'm a Chicago Bulls fan. So I'm not one of these that will try and get into another sport just because Chicago are playing in it. I've tried watching baseball, don't get it, don't understand it. Tried watching American football, don't get it, don't understand it. Goes on far too long for my attention span. And yeah, I've got no interest in getting into WNBA, to be fair. Respect to them for doing it, obviously women and the hype that it's getting this year and all that sort of stuff. But it's just not for me. I'm not going to fake an interest in it. As for Angel Reese, how do I put this? I'm not going to answer it because I think my answer could offend a few people. Okay. People in the chat will know my thoughts on it. Basically, the easiest way I can answer it is I'm not following the hype. The clips that I've seen of her, yeah, great, doubles and all that, but most of her rebounds seem to come off missing her own shots. But I have been told by people who watch that is not correct, and that is me following a narrative that has been created on social media. Hence why I will not give a proper opinion, because I don't watch, so I can't.
Very good. Okay, I wouldn't say I'm a fan. I don't claim to be a fan because I'm not invested enough in it, but I do dip into it a little bit here and there. I do love the fact that the WNBA is becoming a bigger thing, a bigger animal. I think it's great for women's sport. I think it's great for basketball and women's basketball. I'm going to be involved in the girls' side of the basketball team that I'm with from next season. My daughter plays basketball, so I am very much on the women's basketball train, but I wouldn't call myself a Sky fan, and I'm not invested enough in the WNBA this year, but I'm going to try to do more and more of it as I go along. It's hard to find the time. But from what I have watched of it, I also wouldn't say I'm on the hype train for Angel Reese. Now, I don't want to offend people. I know everybody seems to have fallen in love with her. She is breaking records. However, the question that first comes to my mind, and I know this is going to upset people, but I'm going to say it anyway, is that not more the fact that the WNBA is still quite young, that the records are there to be broken right now? And it is good that players are coming through, that they are, more efficient. They're becoming better players as it's evolving. Players are evolving with it, which is great, which happened decades ago in the NBA. And now we're there to witness it happening in the WNBA. But I also think that Angel Reese at the moment is breaking these records as a rookie. But it won't be too long before somebody else comes along and does it better. I don't like the way she plays. I don't want to get personal or take it to a personal level, so I'm just going to talk about her game. I do think she's Drummond-esque in that she does get a lot, not all, but a lot of her stats are padded by missing her own shots. She's not the only one. There's a lot of it happens through the NBA, through the WNBA, but she misses an awful lot of what I would consider to be sitters and gets the rebounds off those. She kind of has a bit of a, shall we say, a lethargic run about her. I wish she would put a bit more, I don't know, maybe she's incapable of it. I don't know. Maybe she just doesn't have that physicality, but I wish she'd put a bit more energy into the way that she plays, which she does when she's going for the rebounds, but she doesn't seem to do that when she's on ball or when she's off ball, more so. So for me, Angel Reese, she hasn't convinced me yet. That's not to say that she won't, but she certainly hasn't convinced me yet. And I really wish it would be more about, like I said, I don't want to get personal, so I'm not going to, but I am going to point out something that I've seen and that I'm seeing on all the socials is I wish it was more about her game than all the credit and all the exposure she's getting across the socials being about, being a Barbie and it all being about how she looks and how she presents herself. It's basketball for me. You're either good on the court or you're not. And I don't give two shits about the other stuff. And that's the same for the NBA as well. I don't like this whole, where they're walking in wearing these crazy outfits and all stuff. I don't give a crap. I want to see you play basketball. So that's my take.
Yeah, my last little bit on Angel Reese is it seems to have gone mental on the socials, and you seem to have to be very careful what you say.
Yeah.
Because you get called out as being a troll, a racist, sexist, whatever it is that offends people these days, that's what you are if you say anything negative about her. There are certain Twitter accounts who have lost a lot of followers because of the way that the fantasize, maybe, as for want of a better word, I don't know, over Angel Reese. They've also gained a few followers because of the way they fantasize over her. Maybe sexualize is a better word. And to me, that's not what women's sport should be about.
No.
And that's why, like I say, I've got nothing against WNBA. It's great that it's getting more hype, more attention. It's just not for me. It's just because I haven't got the time, and I'm not going to make the time to watch something that I'm not fully invested in. So, yeah, apologies if we did offend anybody about Angel Reese, but we didn't say anything.
Not the intention.
Racist, sexist, whatever. No. I don't know. But if we did, then yeah, so what? Come on, I've got to offend somebody at some point.
You did so well.
Come on, I'm going on holiday. Right, yeah, I'm done. I think we've gone on for long enough, far too long. In actual fact. So thanks if you are still listening. you know, at the end of the day, it is our last one for a couple of weeks, so you've got 2 weeks to listen to it anyway.
True.
You know, whether you want to or not, just do it. Like I say, we will be back when we're back off holiday, whenever that happens to be. There will be a bit of a lull on the socials as well next week, because obviously that is my job, and I won't be on them because I'm not here. But there will be tweets and stuff put out, obviously, when we are back and stuff like that. So you will not miss us, which I'm sure you wouldn't anyway. But as always, thanks for listening. We are going to go and enjoy our holiday / vacations now, not together, but at the same time. And as always, I've been Matt. You can find me on Twitter at MattCRedUK, and you can follow us on all the socials at CRedUK.
And you'll find me on Twitter at Neill UK. On behalf of us both and the Fans First Sports Network, thanks once again to everyone for tuning in. We do appreciate it. From us both, do remember it's a Chicago Bulls thing wherever in the world you are. And until next time, see red people and go Bulls.